Good morning. This is Sheila Pearl, and this is the beginning of your IntoMeSee Self-Love Coaching Program. Welcome. One of my favorite poets and philosophers is Marcel Proust, who says wisely that it's our imagination that's responsible for love, not the other person. Our imagination is also what's responsible for everything that you and I create. So, welcome to a magnificent journey into looking into yourself, deeper into you, into the person that perhaps you've always been but didn't really acknowledge or recognize. It's the beginning of a journey in which you discover the exhilaration that comes with removing the masks, in removing the guardrails in which you're protecting yourself from being seen fully for who you're afraid you might be and people might judge you to be. It's a process. And in this 6-month program here on Facebook, it's a 6-month process. But my friends, it's a lifelong process. So I'm going to be sharing with you a number of questions that I think will begin the process for you. I have uploaded a document for you. It's the overview worksheet for you to take a look at with a few introductory questions that give you an idea about what the 4 major aspects of this program are, the 4 major aspects to what I've discovered in my 40 plus years of professional work in the work that I do every day. Is really important for you to plumb the depths of getting to know yourself better, which is what self-awareness is about, and then to plumb the depths of accepting yourself more fully, which is what leads to being able to embrace yourself for all your perfect imperfections, and what leads you to getting to the point where you can engage in what I call real self-love, which is self-acceptance and self-responsibility. When we get to that point where we really are willing to say, this is who I am, or this is who I want to be, this is who I can create myself to be. It all begins with imagination, as Marcel Proust has suggested. So the 4 aspects of this program are: 1, truth-telling. Now, in the work I've done with Neale Donald Walsch over the past 15 years or so, I've discovered there are 5 levels of truth-telling. In this first 6 months of work together, we're going to be looking at the first 2 levels of truth-telling, and that is telling the truth to yourself about yourself. And to some extent, you might want to keep a lot of that close to the vest until you feel safe enough to share that truth about yourself to someone else. When you and I get to the point where we can, first of all, say to ourselves, this is the truth about me. And I'm not sure that I'm willing to let you know about that yet, but I see that about me. I own it. When I get to the point where I am willing to own it fully enough so that I embrace it, I say, well, this is me, like it or not, this is me. And I trust you and I trust myself enough to be willing to share that with you. That's big. And that's another level of truth-telling. Telling the truth to myself about myself, and then telling the truth about myself to someone else. That's another leap. And so in the work that we do together online, you have an opportunity, if you want to tell the truth about yourself to someone else. Or you could keep it to yourself and you could decide whether or not you want to have an actual conversation with either me or someone else about that, so you can practice that. So the truth telling is really important. And we continue to circle around. I'm not a linear thinker. I'm really circular. I kind of keep going around. It's like a spiral where we go deeper and then we rise higher in terms of our clarity and our awareness. So as we do the deep dive, it's kind of like what I learned as a singer was that the more I developed, excuse me, a little froggy this morning, the more I developed my skills and my technique as a singer by developing the lower voice, strangely enough, it strengthened the higher voice as well. And so at the age of 77, I can really I can still sing the high notes because I also practice keeping the low notes strong and healthy. So as below, so above, as above, so below, we will practice the ongoing discovery of truth telling, telling the truth to yourself and telling the truth about yourself to someone else. The truth telling is big and it's ongoing. And I mean, there is no end to discovering more things about yourself, and there's no end to discovering the truth about yourself that perhaps until recently you were not willing to see, much less talk about or to acknowledge. Then we have the element of mirrors. Mirrors I see as our other relationships, the relationships that we have in our lives. Now, these could be relationships with coworkers. They could be relationships with friends and family. They could even be a relationship with someone that you see at the supermarket, maybe the checkout person there, uh, who is either someone that you resonate with or not, somebody who annoys you, who doesn't. Sometimes we learn a lot about ourselves by just noticing which people we're around make us feel better about us, and other people we feel testy or irritable or defensive. And so we're going to be constantly delving into the mirror quality in the relationships that you have, in which you can learn more about who you are and what some of your issues are that you don't see or recognize until and unless you are in relationship with someone in particular who may push your buttons, who may trigger you. And to begin to pay attention to the patterns of people that trigger you in one way or another, and the patterns of behavior that you have in these kinds of relationships, which give you an experience of yourself. You begin to see that mirror quality. This person is mirroring something back to you that you need to look at, that you need to recognize and to see more clearly. And so that helps us to appreciate the relationships in our lives, the relationships with people we like and don't like, the people that we get along with and the ones we don't get along with. And to appreciate the sometimes the gifts of the people who drive us crazy. Or as one of my colleagues who wrote a wonderful book, Thank You for Being Such a Pain, the people who really are a thorn in our side and sometimes are a very important reminder of something that we just don't see. And finally, after that thorn in the side, poking us long enough, we say, oh, I better pay attention to that. Or that's something I need to really work on. Or that's something I didn't see before, which raises the third aspect. The things we didn't see before something forced us to see it, are the blind spots. Now, you and I all have blind spots. It's part of the human condition. If you think of our awareness as a big pie and a pizza pie, okay, or a key lime pie or a chocolate mousse pie, whatever kind of pie, just use your imagination. And a small sliver of that pie, maybe, I don't know, 15% of that pie, is all the things we know. And then next to that sliver is a larger sliver, maybe 20%. All the things we know, we don't know. So for instance, I know how to sing. I know how to write. I know how to get on Facebook. I don't know Chinese. I don't know how to change my tire. I don't know how to fix my car engine. right? So I know certain things, and I know that I know them. And I also know that I don't know a whole bunch of other things, probably a much larger field of things I don't know, which is humbling. It's important to remind myself what I don't know. And then the rest of the pie, that, let's say, 70% or 65%, and hopefully, it gets to be less and less as we grow wiser and wiser in our lifetimes. But the rest of that pie, that's not the sliver of the things we do know or the things we know we don't know. The rest of that is all the things we don't know we don't know. We just don't know we don't know it because we can't see what we can't see. It's like sound. There are certain sounds that only dogs can hear, and we can't hear it. Doesn't mean the sound's not there. We just can't hear it. So blind spots are the things that we can't see that are getting in our way. And how do we know that we have a blind spot? Well, we don't know until something happens that boing hits me. Oh, I should have had a V8. Oh, I didn't see that, or I didn't see that coming, or why didn't I notice that? Those are the blind spots. And so we're going to delve into the blind spots that you've had that now you know you had, and you uncovered them because something maybe catastrophic or dramatic or funny or whatever happened that uncovered it, where you can say, oops, I didn't see that. Now I see that. And that can happen with relationships that we've had where we thought, gee, that was a great idea. I thought I really knew this person. I thought I really liked this person. I thought we were really good for each other, whether it's a friendship or a love relationship or marriage or even a job situation where we thought it looked like a good thing and we got into it, and oy vavoy, we discovered this was not what I thought it was. I didn't see so many things about what were there that if I had seen them, I wouldn't have made that decision. If I had not had that blind spot, I would not have made that choice. So we have a lot of blind spots, and that's part of learning. When we can uncover the blind spots, yet another blindness that now we are able to see, we're more in control of our lives. We have more clarity, we have more awareness. So as you can see, the whole issue of getting to know yourself, IntoMeSee, delving into self-revelation, self-knowledge, self-understanding, self-acceptance, is this ever-going, expanding, evolving process into you seeing more today than you did yesterday. Partly because maybe something happened that woke you up, that took away the blinders. The next aspect is probably the most important aspect in all levels of love and certainly self-love, and that is the aspect of forgiveness. Now, there are certain arenas of our lives in which we are called upon or invited to forgive. One of them that we often don't really think about is the actual circumstances in our lives, the kind of circumstances or situations that lead us to cry out, this isn't fair. Why me? And we all walk around feeling angry at something that's happened that hurts and it's painful and it's disruptive and it's inconvenient and costs a lot, whatever the circumstances are. And we feel like a victim and we feel angry. We might be blaming God or the universe or whatever it is we want to point at as a person or not a person, but a force to blame. So it's very difficult sometimes to acknowledge the extent to which we're blaming life itself and forgiving forgiving the actual circumstance or situation. Once you can actually acknowledge that everything in life is happening for you and for me, rather not to you and not to me, and we see that there's a choice here in how to respond to a situation or a circumstance, which takes us out of the victim role and puts us into the victor role, then we begin to own our life. And it's not that something happens to us for a reason, as if something in the universe is pulling the strings like a puppeteer to say, we're going to give you this catastrophe to deal with. We've decided that this is free. Not so. I mean, you have a choice in how you see all of this. I'm just saying, I don't really subscribe so much to the idea that everything happens for a reason. I rather subscribe to the notion that things happen and then we create the reason. We use our imagination. We use our ability to shape our response to every situation and circumstance. And so there is a forgiveness process about that. Then the other two arenas in which we're invited to forgive is to forgive the other people in our lives who have hurt us, who have disappointed us, who have betrayed us, who have caused us great anguish, great hurt, great turmoil. And there could be a parent, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be a friend, it could be a coworker. The people in our lives who have been a source of pain and suffering are the ones that we have an opportunity, constantly being invited to find a way to forgive them, for they probably didn't do it necessarily to hurt us. It worked out that way. Or even if they did have the intention of hurting us, that may have had something to do more with them and their dark side than with us. We need to find a way to forgive the people in our lives who have either consciously or unconsciously caused us hurt and pain and anguish. And that's not easy. It took me decades, literally decades, to reach an understanding on a deeper level or a higher level about who my father was and what he did and what he didn't do, so that I was able to, after he died at a very young age actually, it took me decades after that to forgive him. And in that forgiveness process, I bought back a part of myself that I had given away. Every moment I blamed him for my pain. And the last piece of forgiveness is for you and me in this process of self-love, in the process of developing a deeper level of self-love, is probably the most centrally critical and important for you. And that is the forgiveness of yourself. There's so much that you and I in our lives have done or said or haven't done or haven't said that we are at this moment judging ourselves for, beating up on ourselves for, saying to ourselves, I can never forgive myself for this. How can I forgive myself for this? It was awful. I was awful. Yes, sometimes we do awful things. Sometimes we make really big mistakes. Sometimes that dark part of us comes out when we're pushed to the edge and we do and say things that we normally wouldn't do or say. Look, my friends, if we were perfect in every way, why would we be in our lives in the first place? It's not about that. It's about learning and growing and evolving with each obstacle and bump in the road as we take our journey. So this is a very important journey for you. It's a journey that never ends. You take the tools, you take the guidance, and you allow yourself to dig deep, to remain curious, to use your imagination, to remind yourself that the quality of love that you can imagine today, probably because you're on this site, you're on Facebook, you're paying attention to this conversation, probably the quality of your imagination about what love is different today than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. And therefore, the quality of love that you're capable of imagining and creating and manifesting in your life in the future, tomorrow, 5 days from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, is also something that can grow and expand and evolve. Long ago, when I thought I wanted to be an opera singer, I had one perspective of myself. I saw myself through that lens. I'm not an opera singer now. I'm a retired cantor. I still sing. I sang yesterday in a concert. But I don't see myself through the narrow lens of being an opera singer. Long ago, I decided I wanted to be a wife and a mother. Well, during the past 55 years, I've been a mother in many different ways. Not the ways I had imagined in the first place. And that experience of being a mother has changed, has evolved, based on my being able to use my imagination and adapt to circumstances that were not what I wanted, but was what I had. And so now, for me, at the age of 77, I have many soul children. I have grandchildren whom I adore. And I have brokenness in my family, which has prevented me from being the mom or the stepmom that I really had always wanted to be. So I find ways to be the mom I always want to be by using my imagination. How can I love? How can I love others? How can I use my desire to be a mom in ways that I can control now? And so I do. So maybe life isn't the way you wanted it to be today. As Proust says, it is our imagination that's responsible for love, not the other person. It's our imagination that's responsible for how we live our lives and for the quality of our relationships, not the other person. It's our imagination that's responsible for our love of ourselves, not the other person. And so I'm inviting you, as we begin this program together, to use the tools. The first tool I'm providing you, excuse me, is already in your ability there to download, and that is your overview worksheet. I'm going to be uploading other tools for you this week, so pay attention. I'll be letting you know what is coming for you to work through this week. And next Monday morning, I'll be here again with the first lesson on telling the truth to yourself about yourself. This is going to be a magnificent journey, which is all about you. I wish you love of your life. I wish you love of the people in your life, and I wish you love of yourself as we walk through this process. Until next time, I'm sending you all of my love.